Lads, welcome back to Fusion YGO. Today, I am showing off my version of Chimera branded. I've been tinkering with this list for a little while, and I've gotten to do a couple of test drives with it, and it's really, really fun, and it's large. There's a lot of cards here. It's 60 cards. I think it's a really strong version of the deck, and I can't wait for you guys to see it, so let's go ahead and dive right into it. Starting off, we have 3 copies of Mirror Sword Knight. Sword Knight allows you to tribute himself as a quick effect, to special summon a monster that mentions Chimera Fusion from the deck, except itself, and then while it's in the graveyard, it can negate an effect while you control a Chimera, the flying mythical beast. We have 3 copies of Cornfield Codal. This card allows you to discard it to add essentially just the Mirror Sword Knight, but you add a monster that mentions a Chimera Fusion from your deck to your hand. Now you can search the other 2 cards that we're about to go over, or you can search Chimera Fusion itself, but in most instances you're searching for Mirror Sword Knight so that you can kind of start your plays. This one also, while you control a Chimera, the flying mythical beast, you can banish it from the graveyard to negate an effect that targets, and that second effect in graveyard, not once per turn. 2 copies of Big Winged Baphomet. If this card is normal or special summoned, you get to add a level 4 or a level 4 beast monster and or a Chimera Fusion from your deck to your hand. Also, you can't special summon monsters from the extra deck for the rest of the turn, except for fusion monsters. The other part of the effect is when it's sent to the graveyard for fusion material, you can target an illusion monster in your graveyard and special summon it. You can only use that effect once per turn. We're also playing 2 copies of Gazelle, the King of Mythical Claws. If this card is normal or special summoned, you get to add a level 5 Fiend monster or a Chimera Fusion from your deck to your hand. And then if it's sent to the graveyard as fusion material, you get to add an illusion monster from your deck to your hand. So it's a Rhoda effect, it's really strong. And then obviously 2 copies of Chimera Fusion. Rounding it out, Chimera Fusion is essentially polymerization, but it requires you to use a beast or a fiend. And then you're able to, while you control a Chimera, the flying mythical beast, you're able to add it from your graveyard to your hand, or you can banish it and then special summon both a Gazelle, the King of Mythical Beasts, and a Baphomet from your deck and or graveyard. That's the Chimera engine. Next up is the branded lineup. The branded lineup is very large in my version of the deck, mostly because I love branded. So we're playing 3 copies of Aluber, the Jester of Despia. We're playing 2 copies of Fallen of Albaz. Playing 2 copies of Blazing Cartesia, the Virtuous. A quick play polymerization, essentially, on legs. And if you control Fallen of Albaz, or if it's in your graveyard, you get to special summon this card for free. And during the end phase, if a fusion monster or monsters was sent to your graveyard this turn, you can add this card from the graveyard to your hand. We are playing 1 copy of Guiding Quem. Quem is crazy, so it's always treated as a Dogmatica and as a Despia card. If this card is normal or special summoned, you can send a Fallen of Albaz or a card that mentions it from your deck to the graveyard. And if a card leaves the extra deck, except during the damage step, you can target a Fallen of Albaz or a monster that mentions it in your graveyard and special summon it. Then we're playing 1 copy of Despian Tragedy. Its primary effect is to add like a Luber to hand as a way to get your play started. 1 Spriggan's Kit. This is a beast, so this is really good because with the Chimera stuff, you can actually search this. You're able to add this from your deck to your hand to give you an extender. We are also playing 1 copy of Tri-Brigade Mercourier. It's a searchable interruption. And 1 copy of Albion, the Shrouded Dragon for draw power. As for the spells, we're playing 3 copies of Branded Fusion. It's Branded Fusion, you have to play it. It's the bread and butter of all branded decks. 3 copies of Branded Opening. This card actually becomes an interruption with things like Guiding Quem, which is really nice. Being able to summon Guiding Quem from the deck, to be able to dump a Fallen of Albaz, to be able to start your plays, is super strong. And the protection effect from destruction effects of your fusion monsters, the replacement effect, also top notch. We are playing 1 copy of Branded Lost. This card is, you can activate it from the deck, so it's really good. And the fact that you get free adds during either player's turn when you fusion summon is really good. Copy of Branded in Red. Adding a card from the graveyard to your hand to be able to fusion summon by banishing can come in clutch. This card's really good paired with things like Despian Tragedy if you dump it, because you'll be able to freely continue gaining advantage, which is nice. 1 copy of Branded Banishment. I like to have as many fusion cards as possible in this deck, so 1 Branded Banishment. And 1 copy of Branded Retribution, whose trap effect is actually pretty good. For those of you that don't know, So when a spell, trap card, or monster effect is activated that includes an effect that special summons a monster, return to the extra deck one face-up fusion monster you control or 2 fusion monsters in your graveyard that mention Fallen of Albaz's material, and if you do, negate the activation, and if you do that, destroy that card. That is, but its graveyard effect, being able to banish to add a branded card in your graveyard to your hand, really good. So next up is our 2 Bysteals. We're only playing Lubellion and Saronir. Lubellion will let you add Saronir from deck to hand. You can also tribute a dragon monster to summon it. You can activate branded loss from the deck with it. Saronir allows you to have another way to dump your branded cards so that you can use cards like Retribution to be able to set your hand up to what you want. Also, it can double as an interruption at times. We are also playing the Patchwork engine. This is the ratio I like, which is 2, 2, and 2. I don't think you need more than that. Patchwork is really nice because it's a pot of greed, essentially, that gets you Edge of Chain, that gets you another Patchwork. So you can kind of just like dig through your whole deck with these, which is really nice. And Edge of Chain is a Fiend, which allows it to pair with Chimera Fusion. And then lastly, 2 Fusion Deployment and a Light, the Hex-Sealed Fusion. We are playing Dragoon in the list. It's really, really good in crackback plays, but it also can be really good in going first boards. If you're expecting to see things like Nibiru, the Primal Being, this is a really good way to be able to deal with Nibiru. And last but not least, our going second cards. We are playing 3 copies of Ash Blossom and Joyous Forehead, 3 copies of Forbidden Droplet. I don't care if my cards are in the graveyard too much, and it's really good to be able to break boards. You could make this Dark Ruler, but this allows you to actually win games, especially if you're going second. So 3 copies of Super Polymerization, 3 copies of Book of Moon. It's really good at helping you deal with things like the Pearly board as well as other boards. So I really wanted to play that. 2 copies of Talent. There are ways you can use this card to rip 2 cards out of your opponent's hand, and that's always really nice. 3 if they've hand trapped, well 3 technically. And then 1 copy of Called by the Grave to round out the deck. For the extra, we're playing 2 copies of Chimera, the King of Phantom Beasts. On summon, you're able to declare its effect to rip a card out of your opponent's hand at random during the end phase. It's always treated as Chimera, the Flying Mythical Beast, while it's on the field or in the graveyard. And if it's in the graveyard, you can banish it to summon an illusion, a beast, or a fiend from your graveyard. Next up is the OTK machine, Chimera the Illusion Beast. Like Chimera the the King of Phantom Beasts, its name becomes the King of Flying Mythical Beasts while it's on the field or in the graveyard. But during the battle phase, it can battle a number of times equal to the number of illusion monsters used for its fusion summon. And when it battles an opponent's monster, neither can be destroyed by the battle. And at the end of the damage step, if this card battles an opponent's monster, you can change that opponent's monster attack to 0 and negate its effects. So there's a 1-card combo that I could show you that will basically lead to this as an OTK, which is absolutely crazy. Albion the Sanctifier Dragon. You want to have names in the extra, and this is one of them. I may change another card of this, but we're also playing 2 copies of Albion, the Branded Dragon. This may get cut to 1 for Rindbrum, just because I think Rindbrum is really strong in the format. But Albion being able to banish to summon fusion monsters, really strong. Lubellion, the Searing Dragon, it's your recursive fusion enabler, so you gotta play this at 1. 2 copies of Mirror Jade. Sounds silly, but it does come up. Mirror Jade is an insanely powerful card. Being able to fuse with your opponent's like Xyz monsters and stuff, or Link monsters, or fusion, or even synchros. Like, this card's just amazing. 1 Grangan Oil. Grangan Oil is the Blazing Cartesia summon, and it allows you to draw cards based off of like dumping things like Garura, but it also can allow you to dump things like Albion to be able to gain advantage. Speaking of Garura, 1 copy of Garura, 1 copy of Drago Stapelia, really strong, 1 copy of Magnum the Reliever. This card's actually pretty cool, it's a newer card. So this card allows you to put a fusion spell card or polymerization in your graveyard to the bottom of your deck and draw a card. 1 Dragoon. Dragoon is super good in this deck. It's a negate. You won't get the pop effect, but the negate is always really strong. And last but not least is a Guardian Chimera. Guardian Chimera is insane in this deck. You can summon it really easily, and the fact that it's a beast allows you to fuse with it when the situation calls for it for Chimera Fusion. It doesn't come up a lot, but it does come up. that is gonna do it for my branded Chimera list. I hope you guys enjoyed. We were on the path to 2,000 subscribers. Yeah, it's been a wild ride, so just make sure you don't forget to do that. And until next time, lads, good fun. Have luck.